What cars do you test the new Jaguar F-Type against? The great debate seems to centre around whether it's a Boxster or a 911 rival. Luckily for us, this is the V8S model, which as tested here is £91,695. So that fixes one problem. It's a 911 rival. Or is it? It only has 2 seats, and it's way more powerful. It's also much more aggressive looking, perhaps more of an occasional car than a 911. In fact, its closest rival on paper is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. The Aston is less powerful, but offers similar packaging and a heap of beauty. So that's how we came to bring a Jaguar, a Porsche, and a slightly older Aston Martin together. The Jaguar's numbers are emphatic. The supercharged V8 has 495 horsepower, but somehow the aluminium structure weighs 1,665 kilograms. I know, I don't understand either. The V8S gets an active electronic rear diff and 380mm front discs. It also has 460 foot-pounds of torque and that genius 8-speed automatic ZF gearbox. When I first saw the F-Type pricing, I thought they'd gone mad. But digest that little lot, and the price doesn't look too bad at all. The Aston is an old car now, but it's still so pretty. It only has 420 horsepower and 346 foot-pounds of torque, and it's another chubby aluminium chappy at 1,710 kilograms. Is British aluminium just lead in disguise? Still, you get a lovely, proper 6-speed manual gearbox here, and possibly the best badge of the lot. German aluminium must be lighter. The 911 is the only car here with 4-ish seats, and yet it weighs just 1,465 kilograms. Its 400 horsepower is way down on the Jag, but its power to weight ratio is kind of up there. As is the price, a crazy £97,816 for this car. I'm not a fan of the strange 7-speed manual in the 991. This car has one. Let's hope it doesn't spoil things. Oh, and the test car has the normal steering and the standard S chassis. So, which is better to drive on road, on track, or perhaps more importantly for cars of this type, to be seen in?
I think we need to stop getting too caught up in this Jaguar F-Type hype and remember that if you've wanted a very cute, quite compact, 2-door, British-built Roadster, there's been one available for the best part of 6 years, and it's called the Aston Martin V8 Vantage Roadster. No one else seems to care about it. Everyone seems to be obsessed with comparing this car to Porsches. I thought we'd get a V8 Vantage out and try and remind ourselves why it's a rather lovely little car. This car does have quite a bit in common with the Jaguar. It too has a sort of bolted, welded, glued aluminium structure, and yet, despite being aluminium, it's quite heavy. It's 1,690 kilograms. Electric top, quite compact 2-seat cabin with no space behind the seats, quite a long bonnet, quite a stumpy bum. Yeah, it takes less space up on the road than the Jaguar though. And I have to say, despite not being the new kid on the block, it still does some things that can really teach the Porsche and the Jaguar a few lessons. To start with, we have hydraulic power steering. I've got a lovely manual gear change with 3 pedals. It's a novel thing, isn't it? People should try that, this manual gearbox thing. It's really rather pleasant. It's normally aspirated and it makes this noise, which, it has to be said, is a rather lovely noise. And I suspect over time, Aston Martin's really learnt how to set spring and damper rates against the inevitable lack of stiffness in the chassis because there's no roof. I'm not saying it's not actually very good, because it is quite good, but the car just seems to ride rather nicely and it's well damped for UK roads. I was expecting to represent this car as a bit of a dinosaur, and do you know what? I've had a lovely 2 days in it. I think it looked beautiful from the outside too, and that has to be counted. It's not normally something I care about, but in this test, looks really count. This car feels its age inside though. You've got these rather horrendous Vanquish era air vents, which I think are probably a Ford or a Volvo product. The ergonomics are all over the place. It doesn't matter too much because some of it looks quite funky, but the dials that move backwards and the fact that when there's any sun in this cabin, you cannot see any of the surfaces whatsoever is a pain in the backside. And the main control button you use for all your computer stuff is hidden behind the gear lever. So yes, it does feel old. It is getting old, but it's a very charming car. Trouble is, it's the most expensive car in the test. But, flip side, it's got an Aston Martin badge on it, and I still think that probably carries more kudos, certainly than a Jaguar badge, and maybe even a Porsche badge. As a driver's car on the road, I'm getting a bit more buffeting in here than I got in the Jag and certainly the 911 with its wind deflector up. And I have to say, it is a sort of 8.5 tenths car. If you drive it up to 8.5 tenths, it's very good. The steering response is especially pleasant. You can put the car accurately on the road and it's enjoyable. You don't really feel any creakiness in the structure. Push a bit beyond that, which I know is a bit ridiculous because it means you're travelling at silly speeds, and you start to feel it slip a bit behind the Jag and especially the Porsche. It just can't match the Porsche's feeling of almost being a coupe that happens to have a very large sunroof. But I'm impressed. I thought this would feel much, much older, and it doesn't. We all know the dangers of something being overhyped, like the big night out, organised with your mates months in advance. When you do it, it's never quite as good as those impromptu ones, is it? Well, the F-Type is the worst kept secret of 2013, but on the road, it's a damn fine thing. This is what's good about the F-Type as a V8S with 495 horsepower. Well, it's got 495 horsepower and it's not very big. It's a muscle car. It's naffing fast. Jaguar claims 0 to 100 miles an hour in under 9 seconds, and it's entirely believable. I love the way it looks. I love the image it presents. I love the fact that it can chop between being a sort of leave it in drive, very, very fast GT cruiser, but when you snap it into manual, this ZF gearbox has such good manual shifts, you really have something quite sharp. I love the fact that it's not too stiffly sprung and that it's well damped and it rides really very well over UK roads. I love the fact the structure's really very stiff and this steering column remains resolutely in place, far better than in the XK. I like the cabin on the whole. It's a little bit trying too hard in places, but it works well and it's got some lovely special touches. Listen to that noise. I mean, that's ridiculous. The noise will be for some people an utter celebration of everything that's right about a sports car. For other people, they'll hate it. It's too ostentatious and too loud. There's a button here you can turn the exhaust down, but even then, it's still pretty raucous. Break it down then into steering, chassis, engine, brakes, that kind of thing. Steering, really very little feel whatsoever, but we're used to that with modern cars. My problem is not with the steering apparatus itself, which is fine, not brilliant. A Boxster steers better than this car. Anyone that says it doesn't is lying, if you ask me. It's the steering wheel itself. This larger steering wheel and paddle setup is taken from the larger XJ Saloon, and it works fine there. But the centre of the wheel's very low, and the paddles are a sort of weird rubberized finish but painted gold, and their action is very unspecial, for want of a better phrase. I just thought that Jaguar could have tried a bit harder, given how well the car actually shifts, to give us something a bit more special. To me, it feels a bit ordinary. And the steering wheel rim is so thick, it doesn't need to be this thick. I need to be a gorilla to get my hands around it. I know, make the obvious jokes now. Ride and handling, very, very clever for UK roads. Difficult to fault at normal speed, I have to say. The biggest problem I have is how wide the car is. You see, it is a very wide car, the F-Type, perhaps wider than is strictly necessary, and on UK roads, I'm aware of it more than I want to be in what should be a Boxster rival. Even in a 911, I don't think about the width of the car the way I do this one. Brakes are pretty good. There's a general feeling of disconnection in the car though. It's not really bad, but in both the Aston and the Porsche, I just feel like I'm more connected to the road than I am in this. You can take that either way. You can either say it gives this better GT credentials than the other two, or perhaps there is something that's just slightly missing there. Not that it isn't exciting though. The noise, the sheer speed of it, and the character of the car really shines through. Does it really need to weigh well over 1,650 kilograms though? That's the bit that worries me. It's not a big car, and it's hundreds of kilograms more than even the 911. I find that really weird. And when I get in the car and I start it up, and the exhaust makes that lovely boomy burble, and then these air vents rise up out of the dashboard, it does make you think, those are electric motors doing that. Why does that need to happen? Is that necessary in a sports car? Has Jaguar got its priorities slightly wrong? Not sure. It's given us a car that's so much more than a slightly cut down XK on the road though. This is, for UK roads, a very, very clever car. Lovely indeed. How on earth does Porsche make a hybrid construction, i.e. steel and aluminium car, that's lighter than both of the all-aluminium British cars? I don't know. But this car is under 1,500 kilograms, and it's quite a big thing, and it's got 4 seats. That's alchemy, isn't it? On the road, the 911, I'm afraid to say it, shines. It really does. The structure is the stiffest, so it doesn't shimmy so much over bumps, and therefore it feels like the suspension has a better chance of keeping the wheels on the road. The steering column is better located, so even though it's electric and a bit arcade game-like, this car can be placed more accurately than the others. It also feels like you're better connected to the road surface, and it just gets better the harder you push. The engine has a real zip and a zing to it. Take it out to 7,500 RPM and you feel like you're in an expensive special sports car, which is interesting because quite often I feel the 991 is a bit ordinary. This cabin, it's quite generic Porsche, isn't it? Nicely put together, nice materials, like the exterior. Very nice, very pleasant, but not that special. I'm not sure the 911 is the eye candy anymore. And now the F-Type's come along. I think it's making a few problems for Porsche. This 7-speed manual gearbox is really improving though. The first versions I drove a couple of years ago really weren't very good. I tend to treat it as a 6-speeder and just forget about that 7th ratio, but I'm quite enjoying using this manual one. And again, as an open top car that's a bit more of a driving experience, I think it's important that you can get a manual gearbox, and the Porsche deserves to be praised for that. It's very fast, it's agile, you can get 2 kids in the back, it's got more luggage space than the F-Type. It's just a cleverer car than the F-Type. But it's lacking several things that the Jaguar offers in the specialness department. Maybe if we go to a track, we can explore that a little bit more. The Aston is the slowest of the 3 cars, just on power to weight ratio. You can really feel it on the circuit, and it's got quite long gearing. But for what I think of as a fairly soft Roadster, it's really very good around Castle Combe. Now you can be fooled into thinking that the Aston understeers the most. It doesn't. It just doesn't have as much power as the others. So to make it oversteer, as I'm trying there, requires a load more throttle. You can't use the momentum as much as the others. I know this isn't relevant for little Roadsters, but it's worth having a go, isn't it? There you go. Use the momentum, and suddenly it feels very rear driven. And it's a very pleasant experience. The steering's nice and tight. As I said, on a bumpy circuit, this thing acquits itself very, very well. Braking's good. The only thing with the Aston is there's a slight mismatch between the control weights. The steering's not too heavy. The gear lever takes a right old shove though. The clutch is quite light, but the throttle's quite heavy. You do get used to it, but it's just slightly odd. Doesn't stop it being rather good fun when it's moving around though. This is so irrelevant, isn't it? But we need to tell you how these cars handle, so I have to go to a circuit and skid them about. It's only correct, you know. So down this long, sort of straight, through Folly, going at a fair old lick now, keep it pinned. It's a lovely neutral car actually. Again, on the circuit, just like on the road, it doesn't feel as old as it should do. And I really like the sort of manual gearbox, more simple interpretation of the genre. This is a really good car. The F-Type V8S is loud, very fast, and when you cock about with it, smoky. There's smoke everywhere coming in the cabin. It's not subtle, but my God, it's exciting. We've got the suspension stiffened up now, we're in a dynamic mode. And unlike the others, even in fourth gear turns, you have to watch the throttle, just in case it starts to spool up. This one has an electronic locking differential, but it feels quite natural to me. It's 10 miles an hour faster down the straight than the little Aston. It does feel a bit more remote, the steering wheel's too big and too heavy, but if you just look at the throttle, look at that! Do that for days. Now wait for the smoke to come out of the cabin. There it comes. Why does it do that? I don't care. It's so exciting. I don't know what car Jaguar set out to make with the F-Type, but I didn't expect it to be this raw. This is not a Boxster rival in that it's not delicate and neat. It's a thug of a car. And its character is really, really addictive. Sensational fun. Really sensational fun. And if you drive it sensibly, it's a very balanced chassis. It does have some understeer, but that's almost immaterial in a car like this because it's got so much torque that there's the understeer. Boot full of throttle, there's the oversteer. I mean, they are centimetres of throttle apart. You choose your angle in this car. That's a big angle. There's a complete mismatch at work with the 911 convertible. When you see it on the road, you just think, ugh, convertible 911. It's a girl's car. It must be rubbish and flabby and wobbly. And then you drive it, and honestly, it feels possibly the most aggressive car here. The engine's razor sharp. It's got a manual gearbox, and it is just fantastically direct. Listen to that engine. I don't doubt that around this circuit it's the fastest car too. I'm not timing them because it makes no difference to me. But as a driving experience, certainly it's right up there. Let's try and describe it to you. The engine, normally aspirated, revving out to 7,500. Sounds superb. Really quick down this straight. Doing 130, so it's matching the Jaguar down there. We'll take third coming into Quarry. Second, we have a pendulum, remember, so we can just get the back of the car going and ride it all the way out. There are very few other cars that can do that, and it's a fantastic feeling. It also feels that little bit lighter than the others here. You can take liberties too. It has that classic slight delay at the front axle that you get on a 911. Once you get up it, you can neutralise the car and steer it on the throttle. Brakes, very good. Really good brake pedal as well. But it's the engine that stands out actually. It's so zingy, it wants to really crack on. This is, for me, the most connected car here as well. From the steering, even though it's electric, to the chassis, to the feel that's coming through my backside, this is the one that feels the most sporting. Strange, isn't it? Because from the outside, it looks like it should be cruising down the King's Road. And that's supposed to be the unmanly 911. What's the GT3 going to be like? The Aston Martin is the oldest car here, it's the most expensive and it's the slowest, so you won't be surprised to hear that objectively it's also the loser here. But for many people, if you're looking for an attractive, normally aspirated car with a manual gearbox, it might be the best car here. Because in this test, the loser happens to be an extremely desirable machine. It acquitted itself far better than I expected for something that old. This Jaguar, this is different to what I expected too. This is like a muscle car, a small British muscle car. All about torque and performance and just hanging on to it and enjoying the ride. It's not subtle, it's not a Boxster rival, it's brutal. It's also quite expensive, which means it had to be tested against the 911. This car is £97,000 and in many ways it's not special enough. But actually, if you delve deeply into the driving experience, this is the best car here. For me, the harder you push it, the better it gets, and it's the most resolved. It's the car that clearly has been developed with the most cash. But does that matter in the final reckoning? For me, only one car here has that absolutely killer showroom appeal, and it's the F-Type. Oh, there's the smoke again. How does it do that? Why does smoke come out of the footwell when you're doing skids? Answer me that one. I'm going to do another lap.